Welcome to the Sad Crime Channel. Today's case took place in 2018 and features many shocking twists and turns that could easily serve as the plot for a good movie. Let's journey to Monroe County, Missouri, where on the evening of April 27th, 2018, Glenn McSparron was on his way to his mother's house, taking a shortcut. It was already dark. Silence filled the air, broken only by the sound of a nearby stream and the whisper of the surrounding forest. At one point, Glenn noticed two vehicles parked on the roadside. He stopped and asked a man standing nearby if he needed any help. However, the man declined. Glenn continued on to his mother's house, dropped off his daughter, and began heading back along the same route. At some point, he noticed a figure lying in the middle of the gravel road. He stopped, got out of his car, and approached the person. To his horror, he realized it was an unconscious woman. As he moved closer, his car's headlights illuminated her face, and as soon as Glenn looked into her eyes, he knew that it was too late to save her. He immediately called the police, and when authorities arrived, they found a car parked not far from the scene, one of the two vehicles Glenn had seen earlier. After checking the license plate, it was confirmed that the car belonged to Molly Watson. Molly was born on December 15, 1982, in Moberly, Missouri, to parents Timothy and Sandy Watson, and she had a brother named Tim. From what's known, her childhood was a happy one, growing up with loving parents and a close bond with her brother. Molly was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, yet she didn't let it hinder her dreams or ambitions. According to those close to her, she was open-minded, unafraid of new challenges, knew what she wanted, and remained true to herself in any situation. As an adult, Molly earned a master's degree in psychology and worked in the education sector. Personally, she loved comics, video games, Harry Potter, Disney, cosplay, and nail art. She even sold her own nail polish line for a time. In her free time, she loved reading a good book in the company of her 5 cats. Molly appeared calm and reserved, but she had a strong personality. Her love life was particularly tumultuous and surprising. In her mid-20s, she married for the first time, but the marriage proved unsuccessful and ended in divorce after 2 years. During the divorce process, she discovered she was pregnant, and before her son was born, she entered a new relationship, this time with a woman. Molly and Amber Brady had known each other since childhood, though they hadn't been particularly fond of each other back then. However, reconnecting after more than 2 decades turned out to be a perfect match. Like Molly, Amber had never been in a relationship with a woman before and had recently ended her marriage as well. A few months later, Molly gave birth to a son, whom she named Declan. Sadly, he was born with cerebral palsy, but with Amber's support, they managed well through this new and challenging yet beautiful chapter of life. After her maternity leave, 28-year-old Molly found a job at the Moberly Area Correctional Center. One of her co-workers was a corrections officer named James Addie. James was 16 years older than Molly. He was born on July 4, 1965, and had joined the Navy as a teenager. Despite the significant age difference and different backgrounds, the two found common ground. Their days at work were enjoyable as they spent their time talking about various topics. Both had families of their own. James was married, but he told his new acquaintance that he and his wife, Melanie, with whom he had 2 children, were on the brink of divorce. Over time, his relationship with 28-year-old Molly evolved into something more, and they began an affair. They would secretly meet for evening rendezvous at motels, hiding the affair from their respective partners. Meanwhile, Amber had no idea that her partner was unfaithful. Gradually, though, she started to notice some disturbing signs. Once, she saw Molly at a gas station with an older man, which sparked her suspicions. Determined to follow her intuition, Amber tracked down the motel where her partner had gone and knocked on the door. When Molly opened it, She was, as one might expect, in shock. Caught in the act, there was no point in offering any excuses. After breaking up with Amber, Molly officially started dating James. It was clear that the 28-year-old was head over heels. However, her family and friends weren't entirely enthusiastic about the relationship. It was no secret that Molly was the one paying for all their outings, and many doubted the relationship would stand the test of time. However, the couple proved them wrong. After 7 years, in October 2017, James's divorce from Melanie was finalised, allowing him to formalise his relationship with Molly, or at least that's what James claimed. At 34, Molly was overjoyed. She didn't wait for James to propose. Instead, she proposed to him. At 52, James said yes. Molly immediately began planning the wedding. She picked out rings, hired a wedding planner, makeup artist, and hairstylist. The theme colours were to be burgundy and gold, with a touch of Renaissance style. Molly wanted the theme to be inspired by Disney, specifically Beauty and the Beast, so she could feel like a true princess on her wedding day. The wedding was scheduled for April 29th, 2018. Yet, despite her excitement, her family and friends still harboured doubts about her choice of partner. Some even told Molly that they might not attend the wedding. James left a bad impression on them. He never looked anyone in the eye, showed no emotion, and generally came across as somewhat frightening. However, Molly was oblivious to this. She was completely blinded by her feelings. Around this time, Molly also started a YouTube channel where she decided to share details about her life. Every day, she tried to publish a vlog in which she talked about her daily routine and any topics she felt like sharing with her viewers. Occasionally, she also posted videos of herself singing. She had a lovely, soft voice reminiscent of Disney princesses. Molly shared her preparations for her dream wedding with her audience. She showed the 2 wedding dresses she had chosen because she couldn't decide on just one. She wanted the day to be absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, before that beautiful day could arrive, a tragedy, multiple tragedies in fact, struck. At the end of 2017, James's ex-wife was involved in a very serious car accident. She had to be placed on life support. Her condition was critical, and during this exceptionally difficult time, James had to support their children alongside Molly. However, they decided not to postpone their wedding date. As April approached and the ceremony was just a week away, Melanie unfortunately passed away. This left the wedding in serious doubt. James had to focus on planning the arrangements for the funeral, leaving Molly to finalise the last details of the wedding on her own. Despite everything, they managed to obtain permission to enter into marriage and decided not to postpone the ceremony. I should mention that Melanie was not James's first wife. She wasn't even his second or third. Before meeting Molly, he had been married 4 times. This made the conversation at the courthouse while arranging for the marriage licence quite awkward. It didn't help that James acted nervously and was reluctant to answer questions. Now, unfortunately, we know that Molly was never given the chance to walk down the aisle. Just 2 days before what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, circumstances took a tragic turn. After a passerby discovered her body on a gravel road on April 27th, 2018, police had no doubt that a murder had occurred. This was not just a random accident or a hit and run. Initially, investigators believed that the woman might have lost her life due to a blunt force trauma to the back of her head. However, upon closer examination of her injuries, it was revealed that she had been shot. They ruled out robbery as a motive because the victim still had her jewellery on. Inside the car, they found documents related to her upcoming wedding to James, which helped the police identify whom they needed to inform about this tragic incident. Around 2:30 a.m, they knocked on James's door, but surprisingly, it was not the 53-year-old man who opened it. It was his wife, Melanie. Yes, the same wife, Melanie, from whom he was allegedly divorced, who later passed away. James and Melanie were taken in for questioning. At that moment, the investigators had no idea they were speaking to a woman who, theoretically, should not have awoken from a coma following a serious car accident and should have been dead. What they did know was that they were talking to the wife of a man who, in just 2 days, was supposed to marry another woman. This is the kind of moment in a movie or book where the audience might shake their heads at how unrealistic and contrived the plot seems. Yet, this was happening in real life. It turned out that Melanie was aware of Molly's existence, but thought she was just another co-worker of her husband's. When she was told that the questioning was about Molly's death, she assumed that all individuals who knew her were being interviewed. However, when she was informed of the affair, the woman was in shock. It became clear that for the last 7 years she had been unaware of James's infidelity. She testified that he returned home every night, and nothing seemed out of the ordinary. He didn't seem unhappy in his marriage, nor did he show signs of stress. Only in hindsight did Melanie remember that he had actually been coming home 2 hours after work ended, but she dismissed it as just part of his routine. James never explained why his returns took so long, but over time Melanie simply got used to it. She emphasized once again that it never crossed her mind that he might be unfaithful. It turned out that for many years James had been living a double life. Up until December 2017, he had convinced his mistress that his divorce was taking longer than expected, even though the application had never been filed. Later, for unknown reasons, he decided to fabricate an accident and then the death of his wife. For obvious reasons, once these deceptions came to light, the police began to suspect that James was involved in Molly's murder. If he was capable of such daily lies for 7 years, he might also be capable of committing murder, perhaps even to protect those lies. Melanie testified that she noticed nothing unusual in her husband's behaviour that fateful day. However, she mentioned that he had scheduled a meeting with a friend in the evening. James claimed he left at 7:30 p.m, but returned an hour later because he had been stood up. However, the testimonies of his wife and daughter contradicted this version of events. According to the women, the 53-year-old arrived home only around 10 p.m, which meant he had no alibi for the time of the murder. His teenage daughter hadn't been asleep yet because she was studying and remembered the moment her father came home, noting that he immediately went to take a shower and started the laundry. James was arrested and scheduled for questioning the next day. Melanie was released after a preliminary conversation. She returned home and had to pretend in front of her teenage daughter that everything was fine, as the girl was preparing for a school dance. Melanie tried to sort through everything she had learned. She also decided to search the house for evidence of her husband's relationship with Molly. She found evidence in the attic. In a trunk, she discovered photos and other proof of this 7-year relationship. It turned out that during this time, the couple had taken several trips together, including to Florida and Mexico. Melanie recalled the excuses she had heard from her husband to justify these absences. Sometimes it was for work training, other times it was a trip with friends. For years, James had been living a true double life. He had 2 partners and was on the verge of having 2 wives. Melanie explained to her daughter that Dad was at the police station giving testimony, but didn't go into details about the case. The girl found out only from her friends, who had discovered an article about it online. Such a situation would be difficult for anyone, but especially for a teenager who still had to go to school every day and face people judging her based on her father's mistakes. As the case gained media attention, Emma learned more about the details and her father's lies, eventually coming across pictures of his mistress. It turned out that she had met Molly before. When preparing to attend a cosplay convention, James had taken her to Molly's house and wanted his mistress to sew a costume for Emma. As James's wife and children pieced together what had happened, the police focused on finding evidence directly linking the man to Molly's murder. At the crime scene, tyre tracks matching his car were secured as evidence. When they searched his home, they found that his vehicle was covered in mud, consistent with the conditions on the road where the victim's body was discovered. Another crucial piece of evidence was a white T-shirt with a print found near Molly's body, which surely belonged to the suspect, as the print was personalized by his daughter, Emma. The shirt contained the victim's DNA and traces of gunpowder. Investigating the bullet was not possible as it had been destroyed, so they could not match it to the weapon that the suspect had at home. However, the man's phone records showed a 20-minute call with his mistress that evening, and that he had been in the area where her body was found. The previously mentioned witness, who discovered Molly's body, Glenn, testified that while driving down that road, taking his daughter to her grandmother's house, he briefly spoke with the owner of one of the parked vehicles, describing the stranger as a short white man around 50 years old. According to the prosecution, James killed his mistress because she had learned about his lies regarding his wife, not only that he had never divorced her, but, most importantly, that Melanie was still alive. Molly's internet search history revealed that she had looked up Melanie's obituary and hospital records, indicating that she was indeed still alive. Of course, she found nothing. The police believed that James feared the consequences of all his darkest secrets being revealed, and thought it would be easier to get rid of Molly. As is often the case, what fascinates in these matters is the audacity of the perpetrators. I don't understand how James could think that the police wouldn't connect him to this crime when he so clumsily disposed of evidence. Above all, he left a personalized T-shirt belonging to his own daughter near the site where the body was abandoned. Additionally, in the victim's car, which was located near the crime scene, there was a document with his name on it, which clearly proved his long-term infidelity and double life. The trial was set for April 26, 2021. Experts on tire tracks and other witnesses were called. Melanie reiterated that she had no idea about the affair, but she also admitted that she believed her husband could be capable of murder. She described him as possessive and controlling, and, in her opinion, he could resort to such extreme measures to solve his problems. The next witness was the defendant's daughter. She told the court that on the night her father returned home after 10 p.m., he seemed anxious. In addition to doing laundry, he had definitely used bleach. His daughter could smell its distinctive, strong scent.
He was going to go meet a friend, and he left, and I think a couple of hours later, Mom went to bed, and I was still up doing homework at around 10 p.m., and that's around the time that Dad came home. He asked me what I was still doing up, and I just told him I was turning in homework, and he walked out. And then a little bit after that, I finished and got up and went to go brush my teeth. And while I was brushing my teeth, he came to the bathroom and just stood at the doorway and then walked back out.
When you were in the bathroom that night, how did your dad act while he was waiting for you?
He looked just really antsy about it. I don't know.
And do you remember if your dad did any laundry that night?
Yes. It was when I walked out of the bathroom and through the dining room, I heard the washing machine going.
And did you smell anything?
Yes, I smelled bleach.
As far as your marriage with James Addie, can you describe it for the jury?
It was good sometimes, it was bad sometimes. I thought we both tried to make it work. I thought we both tried.
So in April of 2018, were you still married to Mr. Addie and living in that same home?
Yes.
Did you have any idea that your husband was using this cell phone to communicate with his girlfriend?
No.
Until the early morning hours of April 28th of 2018, did you have any idea your husband was having an affair?
No.
Do you remember what he was wearing when he left?
Blue jeans, a black jacket, and boots.
After the evening of April 27th of 2018, did you ever find that jacket?
No.
Did you look for that jacket?
Yes.
We see this car in the garage in this photo. Is that normally where that car was parked?
No, he would usually park it outside the garage.
To your knowledge, was he working on the car that evening?
No, not that I know of.
After the police came and spoke with your husband that night and left, did you start looking around the house?
The next day, yes.
Why is that?
I just wanted to see if there was anything else that I could find.
Did you find something?
I did, in the garage.
Is that the same garage that that maroon car was parked in?
Yes.
And what was in that loft area?
I found some boxes of things that had belonged to Molly. I found a locked chest that when I opened it had a photo album.
So Mr. Addie went on at least 2 trips without you, is that right?
Correct.
Did you ever go on trips without Mr. Addie?
Yes.
Did you have conversations with Mr. Addie about those trips?
Yes.
Okay, what, if anything, did he tell you about you going on trips?
He didn't want me to travel without him.
Why was that?
He assumed I would have an opportunity to have an affair.
Were you divorced from Mr. Addie in October of 2017?
No.
Did you have any idea that your husband of 22 years signed a form that said you were?
No.
Did you have any idea that that form was a marriage license to marry another woman?
No.
Were you in a horrible car crash a few months after that divorce date in October of 2017 around Christmas or New Year's?
No.
And is it fair to say you did not pass away in April of 2018?
That's correct.
James did not testify during the trial, but he chose to read a statement, which was a love letter to Molly, the woman whose murder he was about to be convicted of. He also requested a new trial, claiming that his defense attorney was ineffective and did not present all the evidence to support his case. In July 2021, James was found guilty of first-degree murder and armed criminal action. He was sentenced to life in prison plus an additional 10 years. Until the end, he maintained his innocence and immediately announced his intention to appeal the verdict. However, it was reported that while serving his sentence, he allegedly told another inmate that he ended up in prison because someone ended up face down in a ditch. This brings us to the end of this case. Unfortunately, Molly's loved ones had to attend her funeral in April 2018, along with the wedding that never happened. Both of her parents passed away within just a few months, and their deteriorating health and eventual deaths were attributed to the trauma they experienced from losing their beloved daughter. Molly's parents never even lived to see the verdict that convicted her murderer. This entire case is heartbreaking, and unfortunately it is certainly not the first and won't be the last instance where the selfishness of one person has cost multiple lives. Molly Watson's son, Jack, has been living with his family members since her tragic death. After Molly's murder, Jack's custody and well-being became a priority, and reports indicate he is being raised in a supportive environment.
I just want to say Molly was my best friend and sister that I will never see again. This monster took her from not only I, but all the family and friends that love her. This horrible tragedy caused my mom to go over the edge before she passed away this year. She was diagnosed with severe psychological trauma from Molly's murder. My dad had been taking care of my mom for over 2 years, dealing with the stress of a murdered daughter and a wife of 50 years that sometimes couldn't recognize him. The stress from that took his life in September of 2020. of a heart attack. The heartache and stress of it all has taken a toll on all of us. Molly had the world in front of her. She was taken from us way too soon. I truly believe if he had have chose to break up with her instead of murder her, I would still have my sister, my mom, and my dad with me. I just plead with the jury to give this monster the max sentence possible. He chose to take her life without mercy, and I ask the jury to not have mercy on him. Thank you.
If you'd like to support my channel, please leave a like or comment. I would be very grateful. Thank you for listening, and until next time.